Chris, thanks for joining us on episode 11 of the Coded for Chaos podcast. Thanks for coming to my basement in Washington. Never thought you'd be hanging out before the podcast in my basement, did you? Next time we'll have to have a beer in the backyard.
I was about to say next time, and before it gets cold though.
Yeah, before it gets cold, or in the spring or whatever. Yeah. How often are you up here in Washington?
Probably about 2-3 times a month.
Okay.
We have a lot of clients here. A lot of our investors are here. Board members here. And it's just a great. I mean, quite honestly, DC has always been a great happening area for cyber, for privacy. And it's a great jumping off point for us and our company.
Is DC bad for privacy or good for privacy? I guess it's both, right? Like it's for self-licking ice cream cone.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of cutting edge things that have come out of the government in terms of privacy, like early on days, but also a lot of the companies that are here, really, really are big privacy advocates. And there's a lot of think tanks here. Regarding the responsible use and onward use of data. Yeah. And so I think that just naturally it becomes a place where you can have higher level conversations on how do you gather, use, share and kind of onward use. That.
If the Cato Institute's right down the street, they like all the best privacy events, like debates take place there. I think there's other places too, but they do a fantastic job. Well, I'm glad you're here and we're able to get you on. You know what? I never actually knew you when you were a CISO.
Maybe a little bit.
I'm trying to.
A few years, yeah.
Maybe
in the late teens, maybe.
Maybe in the late teens. When did you stop being a CISO?
I mean, I guess as employee one and the founder of BlackCloak.
Yeah,
I was the first.
When was that?
I was the first CISO in 2018.
Okay, all right.
So it's like
I didn't know you before that. Okay, yeah.
So you did know me before that.
Where were you CISO at that point?
So I was at LSQ and ViewPost, so 2 different fintech companies, starting in 2012.
Yeah.
So
I didn't know you back then.
Yeah. That's when you fish a tank.
I just completely forgot who was CISO where and when. But I just think of you as Mr. BlackCloak now, so it's like I forgot about that first half of your career.
I do wear that cape around.
Yeah, you do wear that cape around. But so that was tell us about that. Like how did a lot of things we discuss on the show is sort of like how did people pivot into being a CISO or like move out of being a CISO to do something else? Because a lot of CISOs want to move out to do something else. It's like a secret undertow of CISOs out there that are like, hey, I want to do something else. Like, what allowed you to build first of all, you have the academic credentials. You're Dr. Chris Pierson. How did that lead to being like a CISO and all the things, the skill set to kind of become a technical guy that you are?
Well, it's fairly circuitous because, my background, started maybe coding, working on computers when I was about 8 years old. My mom was a teacher. She taught typing and stenography. Yeah. And so when computers came out into high school, it was one of those things where it's like, well, it's got a keyboard on it, even though it acts differently. So here you go. And one summer when I came home, there were literally like 6 different computers at our home. There was a Timex Sinclair and Commodore 64 and their Apple IIes, and all the rest of these were there. And I was like, well, what do those do? How do you do that? And slowly just started going through manuals and learning little things, how to move the cursor across the screen and create all those kind of like easy, dumb programs now looking back on it. But that's where I really started, kind of a love for all things digital. Out of college, I was a programmer.
What was your first computer?
My first, that I actually paid money for.
That you had around the house. You said there was laying around the house.
The first one I can remember really doing a lot on was Timex Sinclair. It had a bubble keyboard. Okay. And you'd hook it up to a black and white TV. Yeah. And then the input-output was a audio cassette recorder.
Okay, I vaguely remember it.
And so, we're talking, you couldn't do, wasn't much you could do with it. But, the simplicity of it now is amazing in terms of where we were at then. And then, eventually it was like more of the steadfast, multiple Apple IIe's and C's and different variants. And
that was my first computer, Apple IIc. My dad went to the Apple Club of Fort Stewart, Georgia, the Army base, and in the Apple Club, where they all pooled their resources to buy apples, was General Norman Schwarzkopf. My dad, I remember Colonel Ask. I remember all these guys, like these dorky army officers, all getting together to like order their first computers. And boy, did I benefit because I was playing Lemonade Stand and Load Runner and all this things. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I can remember all those. I can remember the darn rabbit game that
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
had
It was,
too.
yeah.
But no. So those were the first, like the Timex and the Apple IIs were the first that were like, in wide spectrum around the house, and then later on, x86 based architecture, and then building computers from there.
So I was playing games and you were fucking building shit. You were like ripping them apart and like building through.
I was definitely ripping them apart, and then later on, when you figured out that I could actually just, forego all the nonsense of actually shopping for a computer and just buy all the pieces and parts and build it myself to what I wanted. I probably started that in maybe about 97. And so just really, that was interesting in and of itself. But I mean, then it was just a big journey of like, getting interested in privacy and cybersecurity. I ran a website called @CyberLaw. Our law school used it. Other law schools used it to teach cyber law. Or what I was.
And we were a lawyer too.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ. All right. Like 10 lifetimes.
Well, I mean, it's one of those things where, as an entrepreneur, it's like, how does something work? Why does something work? It's, early on days, I was a swimmer and then, I was like, well, what do you want to do for money? So then I, ended up, 16 years old, 15 years old. And it was, well, I'll do swim instruction. And then it was like, well, okay, I'll do lifeguarding. And then a few times it's like, some bad things happen. The ambulance came, like, ooh, that's interesting. Let's become an EMT. So I became an EMT. And then at a house fire, I'm like, well, that's interesting. So I became a firefighter.
Where was this?
So this is multiple different states, but Massachusetts, Connecticut.
Okay.
But it was one of those just natural learning curves. And there was one fire, and I'm like, ooh, that looks really interesting. What are those asthma guys doing?
Yeah.
That lasted maybe a month because I was like, I want to have kids. So I don't want to go into put hazardous materials. But the natural curiosity and learning is just something that's there. And I was very much interested in law, and then I became interested in the intersection of law, technology, privacy, this thing I was calling cybersecurity, information security. Back then, if you remember, it was NetSec.
Yeah.
And so, it's just really interesting in that like 98 to maybe 2002 timeframe of trying to figure out how do we bring this all together. 9/11 helped spur a lot of items in terms of, okay, the fifth domain is something that might be able to take us down as opposed to a kinetic energy weapon, but really, quite honestly, for those that were around during that time, it was not good days. Everyone was focused on kinetic energy weapons, kinetic impact, taking down targets through force, as opposed to through the keystrokes on a keyboard.
Plus, after like Y2K was like a big letdown. Yeah, and everyone was like, "Oh, that's a nothing burger." Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
I was on the Y2K task force in my army unit. It was like, we were like, hey, make sure we're compliant, Captain Thomas. And we were like,
yeah, I can remember.
Change your clocks.
Yeah, I mean, I can remember. I mean, but I remember coding in that same fashion of, hey, look, the shortest amount of things possible. Make sure you have your flat file offset. All definitions are there. And it was like, oh, yeah, we're just going to put in a 9.6 or 9.8, and it's fine. Everybody will be fine. But yeah, a few years later, not so much. Not so much. But I mean, it was more just natural curiosity. I was able to work externally as a outside counsel at a large national law firm. I had built the cybersecurity practice there in 2002 because some of the government stuff I had done and been around. I taught a lot around wireless hacking and different techniques there, and so we were able to get some of the big breaches into the firm. And I loved that. It was hair on fire, amazing, great things. Once again, it was a little bit intellectually unstimulating at a certain point in time because it was the same thing happening. Back then, buffer overflow and SQL Server injection were the two means to the breach.
Yeah.
But it was it just wasn't. How do we solve this? Like, how do we get on the front lines? And so, the Royal Bank of Scotland (RBS) had a chance and opportunity. They wanted to hire their first chief privacy officer here in the U.S. for Citizens Financial Group, Citizens Bank. And so I was lucky enough to become that person. And that's where I really got my hands on the intersection of privacy, fraud, identity theft, anti-money laundering, identity, access, authentication, as well as cyber, and kind of blend all of them together with this overview lens of, a little bit of legal. I was never a legal representative there acting as a lawyer, but a little bit of legal and policy and governance on top. And and it just
Wait, what years was that?
So I was at the bank from 07 to 12.
Do you think we missed out? What did we do wrong? Like cyber is still one of the hottest topics in the world, right? Like the cybersecurity and the cyber, but it's still almost treated almost like a novelty in my mind. Like we had the NSA director on 60 Minutes last night, the previous NSA director, who was recently, I guess, dismissed or whatever. He's on there saying, they're acting like this is a new story. He's on there saying, like, the Chinese have been in our networks the last 5 years. The last NSA director said the Chinese have been. We've known. We live in Washington. We work in this community. I used to work in the government space and in the. We've known this for a really long time.
Sunrise. All these things going back to like the code.
This is not even this is like 60 Minutes to treat like this is a new story. Like, what do we need to do to let people know? Like, so we're talking about. An occupation of America. Like our networks, we kind of know they're occupied.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%.
Why is it still not like the biggest story in the world?
I think a lot of it comes down to the fact of, we as human beings, but also maybe more so we as Americans, perhaps, in order for us to actually, like, we have to actually see it, breathe it, feel it, touch it, to have that association, have that impact. I find that we are a very, very visual acuity based culture, even a little bit more so than other places around the world. And so I think it's one of those things of when we feel the impact from something directly, then it will have meaningful import and value to us, and we'll take action based on it. But unless we feel that, it isn't as granular. But then also on the flip side, when it does happen, we then have a very, very kind of quick, steep, off ramp. And I'll give you an example. You remember the when was this? Maybe 05 or so. You remember the sniper that was hiding out in the back of the PC sniper. I was taking shots.
Everybody was looking for a white van.
Yeah. And also everyone, when you would get out, pump your gas, and you'd stand by the metal pole for the awning,
like hiding.
Or
they set up like a shield at some other places.
Yeah, but you'd stand behind the post or behind the engine block of the car, or something like that. But it's like, we have these big, massive upswing, and then kind of comes down. Even when we're talking about the ransomware for Colonial Pipeline, it's like all of a sudden it's like, wow, we get it. We get the fact that there was maybe some password that was out there that allowed someone third-party access into some part of a company that deals with energy, and as a result, they had to shut down. They chose to shut down, or they shut down. And it caused impact in terms of gas, waiting lines, and being able to fuel the car and prices and all the rest. And so you now see the ones and zeros translate into direct impact. But we saw that escalation up, and we saw a very, very quick.
What do you think about this idea? In the Cold War, Hollywood was on the side of America.
Okay.
And the cyber Cold War that we're in, Hollywood is not on the side of America. And there hasn't been the equivalent of the same show of capabilities to your point of like people want to see, like, we're visual, right? Yeah. So we watched Red Dawn. We saw movie. I mean, the equivalent of Red Dawn is kind of like on our networks right now. Like they're not Cubans, they're Chinese, and they're on our networks, or they're Russians or whatever. And maybe there's some Cubans too. Who knows? But Hollywood has not made movies to show the bad guy and the face of the bad guy on our networks. They've obfuscated it into Threadistan and like all these other places. Like even the last Pop Gun, was a nondescript location with like a nondescript bad.
With that 14s.
Yeah.
But not Iran.
You're right, but not Iran. So what do you think about that? Is like they're not broadcasting it as a threat. They're not helping communicate to the American people.
I mean, I think it is look, in order to rally folks in terms of like actually partaking in the solution, they need to understand what it is that is potentially a problem, what the impacts of it are, and what their role in this needs to be. I think that a lot of times when we talk about cyber, it's gobbledygook, it's ones and zeros, it's people talking at such a high level or low level of fidelity that just like your eyes wash over. You can understand, was last week at, AWS had an outage.
Yeah.
It's like, so you go to your coffee place, it's like, hey, sorry, we can't do call aheads. We can take, we can take cash or whatever here for your coffee or tea. And so they're like, okay, but it's not a major inconvenience. And we're also not translating it in a way where it's like everyone wants to care. It's all of a sudden the impetus and the responsibility is on someone else. So as a result, it's oh, that's nice, but right, we're not 3 months without electricity or 3 months without water or 3 months without, and most certainly I don't want any of those things to happen, but there has to be a better way of communicating and identifying with individuals, seeking and triggering the emotions that makes everyone want to care or ask questions. And then most importantly, right, as is like when you are involved in an effort, then you become more tied to it. It's like people that volunteer for the first time. I do a lot of volunteer activities. We're doing our Thanksgiving United Way volunteering in a few weeks, and it's one of those things where it's really important for my kids to see when you start on that path, you'll continue on it because it does have that dopamine hit back to you. It does have that well-being. Seeing somebody actually smile and say thank you, seeing somebody who might not be able to put food on the table, have the benefits there. I mean, that's real, it's visual, it's palpable, and you get that great feeling from it. But you have to start that process, otherwise you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
And there has to be some way for us as part of like cyber literacy in each and every classroom, get people aligned to it and all the rest of them, or just code where people are. I mean, right now, movie theaters, 2 hours, 2.5 hours, 3 hours movie, people aren't paying attention. But you do something for 30 seconds, and people will walk across traffic zones staring at their phone. 30-second movie, 30-second movie, 30-second movie. Let's meet people where they're at. Let's do so in a non-technological a manner of speaking. And then let's give people something to feel good about and something to identify with. And I think we'll be in a better place.
So you're talking mostly about people being more aware of how it all works, but not necessarily pointing the finger at a bad guy.
I think that you can point fingers, but then it becomes more of a blame game in terms of who's there. I mean, it would be good for someone to have a visual or something that they can rally up against, right? Like, Smokey the Bear does a program, and the bad person is nondescript, someone who didn't stamp out the campfire, so he didn't, right? So, but it doesn't have to be a general person, but having the euphemistic, person in a hoodie.
Yeah.
I mean, we've migrated so far beyond that, and we need to. But I mean, I think more so, let's show people what the consequences are. Talk to them a little bit about how we can get to a better state. Tell them what role we want people to play, and then join in. And I think industry has a big place to play here. 85% of critical infrastructure is owned by private sector.
Right. This is a good transition to like you started BlackCloak. Do your customers come to you because you think they know the adversary better than maybe the average bear, the average Smokey the Bear in America, and they're like, I know who this is. It's these guys. It's the People's Liberation Army. It's this threat actor group. It's this, and they will do anything to get on my corporate network, and I'll do whatever it takes to stop it. And then one of those like weak links is kind of like all these other things. Like, is that why your customers now come to you?
Yeah, I mean, it's massively interesting is that a lot of things have shifted and changed. This attack surface has always been there, right? A previous cleared life, this was something that we knew about in terms of defense industrial base. I think people saw it much more apparently in 2016 after the election and different things that went on there. And I think we've seen it in a large number of instances since 2016. The fact of the matter is that if you're a cyber criminal or if you're a nation state, the easier job it takes to hack someone or something, whether it's for financial gain or intellectual property, cause disruption or chaos or extortion, or doesn't matter.
No.
The easier that you can get that sequence going, the better off you are. And so why am I going to go, spend all this time and money trying to hack in when $50 million is being spent on cyber, or $100 million being spent on cyber, when I can go target those executives, right, the 20 pictures are on the website, the board members whose 10 pictures are on the website. I can go target them in their personal lives, but I can actually take it one step further. I go target their family members.
Yeah.
Jennifer is the CEO, married to Bob. They've got Luke and Leia as their kids.
Yeah.
Muffy is the dog. Great. And you'll find them here at the Habitat for Humanity on Saturday mornings doing volunteer work. Wonderful. Even better, because from a physical perspective, now you have that convergence. I think that cybercriminals and nation states have always known that the home is the weak spot, the soft underbelly of protecting executives and their families. They've been there for a very, very long time. You have the inflection points of it ramping up after 2016. You then have COVID turning the whole thing on its head, because all of a sudden it wasn't a, hey, we have to hack in through a corporate IP address. It's you have to hack in through $10 of some Wi-Fi or router or something that isn't even configured, because all of a sudden you went from 10 offices to 10,000 remote offices, in 1 week, right? And so that was a big, massive inflection point. In 2023, we saw the big, massive inflection point of let's take doxing and swatting directly to executives, not gamers, right? Like, let's re-envision this. And then, of course, unfortunately, tragically, a year ago, Brian Thompson's tragic murder, on the streets in New York, you have a kinetic attack happening. I think it's one of those things where corporations know that, look, the attack surface for your board, your executives, your C-suite is big. They've got it covered on the inside four walls of the company. Don't get me wrong. Like, that is absolutely covered, and you can increase more controls and stuff like that. They know where to go to for executive protection, like physical security or kidnap and ransom or air medical rescue type of stuff. But I mean, digital executive protection it's here. It's a category we've created. It's here to stay. And the attacks are only getting more sophisticated.
Yeah. Do your customers come to you because are the bad guys targeting families and the home office and stuff like that? Because after COVID in 1 week, executives started having really sensitive conversations on shitty home routers, and they were able to see what's happening right there. That's part of it, I guess, right?
It's definitely part of it.
Is another part of it, they want to gain a foothold to move laterally into the corporate network? It's both?
So we actually see both. So we see a few things. Number one, if you can go ahead and reach out and touch an executive at home in their personal life, their cell phone, their address, or the family members, right? But the cell phone, their email address, or their physical address, that is massively impactful.
Yeah.
Second, you can go create financial turmoil and chaos inside a home by targeting anyone in the family. And the CISO and other folks at the company, the general counsel, CIO, everyone's going to be involved in that.
Yeah.
It's the CEO, it's the CFO, it's the COO. They're all going to be involved. So now you're dedicating time and resources away from the company. Extortion and ransom, huge. And we're not talking about anything bad. We're talking about personal pictures of the kids running around naked in the home, but their personal home picture, or personal pictures of you on date night and stuff like that, right? These are things where it's nobody's business. Video messages from mom and dad coming into you. I mean, nobody else's business. And there's a lot of information there that people are being extorted for. Definitely a lot of information.
So are you seeing actual extortion? Other people were saying I have this picture and I'm going to do this thing.
Or I have all of these pictures. I have all of your communications on your personal Gmail account, chris@gmail.com, with your attorney, and everything regarding your taxes, your trust and estates, how you want to use this island and this LLC and this tax thing over here, whatever. And is that appropriate for the corporate life? Not, what is the position there?
Not illegal, but not so you want the whole world.
Yeah, well, they're attorney-client privilege things. Or with doctors, right? That information, trust and estate information, that's where you've seen the biggest blow-ups, right? All those documents, who's getting what? Some people are in, some people are not in. So you have all that. But then to your point, yes, we have seen, and there are at least two public accounts we can talk about, but we have seen folks targeting executives at home so they can kind of ride the lightning back into the corporate sphere. The biggest one to talk about is LinkedIn 2012. That Darknet Diaries episode is one of the most accurate I've ever heard. But, right, engineer at home, point-to-point server connected between home and work, right, didn't want to go in, and you hack the home. They wrote into LinkedIn, and that still is one of the largest data breaches of unsalted, poorly hashed passwords that is out there. Right, they're all basically been put into clear text now at this point in time. And then back in 2022, in August, we have the LastPass breach. So, allegedly about 4 key engineers that had master access master access into the password vault. One of them was targeted at home. They were running out-of-date software. I think it had been updated in several years of Plex software on their home computer. No anti-malware. They dropped the keyboard logger on the computer, username, password, passed the hash for the cookie, and boom, they were able to log in, and Bob's your uncle, right? They were able to get into the network without actually hacking, right, through all the different, through the moats, through the gates, through the guard towers of the castle. They kind of use the secret entrance. And so we know that that's going on. And it doesn't even have to be anything that is intellectual property or something that's like state secrets. Just knowing, example, I don't know, CEO of Eli Lilly is traveling a lot to Kansas City, and there's the number 10 largest drug company is in Kansas City, and it's private. And somebody gets that information, sees number of trick picks going, and sees dinner on their personal calendar with the CEO of that company. Well, you can go ahead and trade off the stocks and make a lot of money if you think that they're buying another company. Or what is that going to do? Do they have a drug that's in trials and it's going to pass, or whatever that might be? Just even data that is not necessarily confidential. I mean, it kind of is, but I mean, right, that might be on a personal calendar, shared on a personal calendar, is worth its weight in gold.
Yeah. Do you think that there, wow, that's a lot. I mean, did the evolution kind of of your business go from people that were just sort of like, I feel like I haven't cast a wide enough net, to this is mandatory extension of a corporate environment?
Yeah, what's really interesting is a massive sea change in the past 18 months from a nice to have to a must have. Yeah. So digital executive protection is being sought after. Yeah. It's now a must have in some form or fashion, right? And so it is one of those things that can't be an afterthought. It's not, early, right, in 2005, brand protection, watching out for the trademark, or watching out for mentioning this. That's, those can be important elements of protection overall, but digital executive protection is so much more. It's like even the data broker stuff these days. I mean, that's like gray. It's necessary, but totally insufficient.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, your $9.99 data broker, or people charging a lot more for it now, but that's not going to get you there, right? It's not going to get you there. You got to protect all the aspects of their privacy and their home, the pictures and the kids and all the rest. You got to protect every personal device they have. And you have to protect that home network, regardless of, right, what computers and devices are on it. But you have to have it in that concierge fashion.
Is there evidence that there was a targeting via something like cyber targeting, let's just call it that, of the former CEO of United Healthcare? Was that, do you have any information there around that particular?
No.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that we know for sure that with regard to all, right, CEO, CFO, general counsel, COO types, that there are confrontations and have been confrontations, especially for industries, the retail, hospitality, definitely healthcare, drug, biomed, pharmaceutical, travel related, where people have confronted executives in person. People have confronted board members in person, right? It is always part of kind of just best practice that you have executive protection, physical protection there for those events. I was just at an event in New York City last week, and you had multiple CEOs that were there, multiple CEOs of Fortune 50 companies. I mean, you probably had about 20 executive protection folks that were just there for dinner, and then a few more downstairs, a few were out by the cars. It just is one of those things where you're protecting the comma CEO, CFO, COO, and their lives are inextricably intertwined between personal and work. They're never off duty. And so,
what are the most targeted industries?
So it's actually, in 2023, we saw a massive spike in spotting and doxing against biomed, pharmaceutical, healthcare, insurance, travel, transportation, hospitality. Those are some of the biggest ones we've seen. And then sometimes ones that spike are ones with, I want to say a cause, but a distinct area. So for example, if something happens in the industry sector globally right now,
crypto or something like
that. Well, crypto spiking has been spiking for probably the past 6 months with wrench attack.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, you essentially, instead of having the bank provide the security, you've outsourced the security of your tokens to yourself.
Yep.
Even if you put them in a safe, you can put them in cold wall storage. Right. You're now in charge, and therefore you can be
Somebody can put a gun to your head and say, "Open your fucking safe," and like, yeah,
You know, we have Fluffy here. We've taken the dog hostage.
Right.
You know, you have 10 seconds to open up the safe. I mean, like, gosh, you know that you're gonna open up the safe, and there you know, whatever your $16 million of crypto or whatever it is now goes out the back door. So we see the different spikes there when that's happening. What we see a lot more is this online fervor, right? Moves over from people being upset and disgusted to, you know, there's a lot of disinformation and nudging coming from other areas. But we see that moving to a, hey, I'm going to take it to the front doorstep. Yeah, you say you're the chief experience officer for Acme Airlines. Well, you are in charge of my bad customer experience. I'm taking it to you. And I'm going to take it there with direct threats, with emails, with phone calls. I may show up, right? They had one of the largest data brokers in the world, NPD, National Public Data, was breached in August 2024. It's like the big secret no one wants to talk about in a data broker world. But you can't remove the data broker information from the dark web. Everyone's information is out there. 270 million unique Americans' information is out there. Every address they've ever been at, all their phone numbers, their email address, everything is out there. And so you do the data broker stuff, once again, necessary, but now totally insufficient.
Yeah.
But we have this. And so what people want to do is they want to take it to the person. They want to take it to the person that may be responsible for their bad experience, for their whatever. And, you know, when's the last time you had a bad airplane flight? When's the last time that you had I know, right? When's the last time that your stay didn't go as well as it could have or something? Or when's the last time you had a problem with an insurance company or healthcare company? Something there. It's like, we have these, and just what separates us is the rational thinking of how do we want to engage in a dialogue with someone, as opposed to online fervor gets pent up, frustration, and then it boils over. And we've seen it at the Minnesota congressman shootings, we saw it with 2 assassination attempts. We saw it with Charlie Kirk's assassination. We keep on seeing these, and regardless of issues, red party, blue party, tea party, coffee party, right? Doesn't matter. We just there's a different way to have responsible social discourse and to disagree. I mean, you know, Pittsburgh Steelers and Dallas Cowboys, you know, playing or whatever the new rivalry is right now. It's like, at the end of the day, you know, hopefully people aren't going home from the stadium saying, oh, we only lost 100 people out of our crowd, you know, that were, you know, pushed over the edge or whatever. It's like, no, I mean, yeah, I'm sure there was the bar fight or whatever, but
what is what is the state of the art of, just like phone security these days, like the mobile security, like that's got to be a big part of your business. Like, you know, aside from like targeting, it's like, that's got to be, correct me if I'm wrong, but I still feel like it's not discussed as much.
It isn't.
Who's securing our phones?
Yeah, I wish the answer was a little bit different. Is that really, you know, I wish that we started at the top and we said, right, you telephone companies, major carriers, you're responsible for the first sieve on top. Right, that would reduce the amount of spam, the amount of phone calls they get put in.
Yeah,
you know, have you know, it's
because they could do that.
Yeah, well, stir, shaken, if you remember the different protocols, but have that as a look. We're going to do a 99.999% you know job of you know whittling that stuff out on the front. But what they don't want to do is have any dropped calls, and so more of the stuff comes through, or they have different pay things by which you can get better security, better.
I mean, the postal service, it's government subsidized. Just trash, like we're just paying to have like trash sent to our house. Not all of it. Like they don't want to prevent the check from showing up, right? They don't stop anything, but
but on the cell phones is the same way, and I think we really have to start at the carrier level in terms of that. That's really where it starts. Is what can get through to our phones both via phone call or SMS text. Really is where it starts. Second place that it starts is on the SIM card. Well, I mean, there can't be a way for any one individual, or shouldn't be a way for any one individual at any one of the companies to turn the key and issue a new SIM card to someone. There should be a waiting process. Maybe it's an hour delay. 2 people have to turn the key or whatever. And this would prevent a lot of what you've seen in terms of crypto scams, especially in California.
SIM swapping.
Yeah, SIM swapping. It's like you give someone $5,000, they give you the SIM card information for whatever person's phone, and then they clone it to get the SMS text, and then they're off and moving on. Whatever it might be. They have the information, username, login from the dark web for some type of crypto, and then they get the SMS text coming to them, and they're able to log in and suck down the account. I think we got to start there at the carrier level in terms of that. Second is going to be the platform level. And I do think, and we have seen, right, Google moving further in terms of call identification and Apple moving a lot further in terms of caller identification. I think that's going to be absolutely necessary as well. In terms of the actual ecosystem of the phone,
I'm talking about like just spam alert, like is this spam call, like potential spam?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Because, I mean, you have the processing power of what's on chip on the phone and can be kept on the phone. That's the other cool part, is that right now, I mean, with the TPM chips that are on the phones and stuff like that, you can do so much processing on the phone without the data going anywhere else. I think it's great use, absolutely great use of Apple and Google's time. And we're seeing them do more in that area, a lot more in that area. And I applaud that. I think then, after that, it really comes down to, so you got the carrier, you got the SIM card, you got the constructs of Apple and Google. And also, right, in some essence, right, you have the actual Google phone and the actual iPhone. Other carriers can do interesting things within the Android within the Android operating ecosystem. I mean, Apple keeps things in pretty well walled off gardens. They do a really good job of negotiating that. Sometimes a little bit too good. They'll turn things on themselves. But I mean, look, that's one of the reasons why, and you should be able to pay for apps not being able to be sideloaded. I actually fervently believe that. I think there should be a different app sharing monetization that is worked out between Apple and the app makers. But I do like that hey, everything inside here has gone through our process, and it can't, it doesn't allow other malware-laden apps into the phone ecosystem. From there, it really comes down to the biggest thing is account access. So making sure you have dual-factor authentication on your Gmail account, on your social media account, on your finance accounts, on your healthcare accounts. That's really, really, really where it comes down to. And the phone can be that factor, that all-important factor there.
Yeah.
But I really wish that we overall would have functions turned on, and then if somebody wants to turn them off, that says, hey, I'm a privacy aficionado and I want to turn things off, that they can go do so. But a little bit more of on by default would be better as it relates to security and privacy controls. Like Apple has a great protection for, locking your phone if it leaves your possession. After a passcode is entered in to, decommission the phone or do something with it. Let's be turned on by default so that it automatically has stepped up authentication when the person steals your phone from the bar because they saw your login. And then tries to, reset your password. There should be another authentication, and they have it.
How often do you find your customers, themselves and their kids have a million apps on their phones that they kind of forget about, and that those apps are like a strong percentage of them are malicious in some way, and like, is that a big part of the attack surface?
It is. Yeah. It's a big part of the attack surface, but it's actually more interesting is that it's more of an attack surface on the privacy side.
Yeah.
So on the cybersecurity side, like obviously if something has
where you're going and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. But I mean, the digital breadcrumbs from our devices right now is like literally when we talk about data brokers, we talk about like the 411 or Spokios of the world. Yep, great, perfect. And you'll talk about more credit reporting agencies, which they have what they're doing. But when you talk about real data brokers in terms of phone geolocation, I mean, you can get different ads sent to you based off of where you actually are, right, internationally. When you talk about the digital breadcrumbs of little pin drops of where you are, it's like 9 a.m. you went to the liquor store, 11 a.m. you went to the Cirrhosis Centers of America, 1 p.m. you went to go see your right Dr. Gelmu, not necessarily your tracks, right? But it's like, and then you went home. Well, from that home location, they know your socioeconomic status. They know mother's education and father's education. Yeah. Then, right, you're able to take all of that and piece it together, and that is valuable data and sell it. And so a lot of what we're doing by keeping those 200 apps, so I might use it at some point in time, on the device, if the settings aren't correctly, is we're leaking different pieces of our digital life. And when you assemble them on the whole, that's what's more concerning, especially post-COVID.
We downloaded it. We had some people over a few weeks ago, and we downloaded, we were joking around and we were talking about like Ouija boards and stuff. And I downloaded this like ghost hunting app for my house, right? To see like this.
Great, we're in the basement.
Talk to daytime. It's a 150-year-old house. Like we were going to talk to some spirits.
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't know what I even really, I did it really fast. And like, it was like Spirit, telling me about this. And it was like, the first word it said was portfolio. And I was like, this thing's reading my phone. Like, it has to be either that or it's an actual ghost that knows about what I do, right? Like, what permissions did I give it to say the word portfolio first? It was the first thing it said. And then it went down a rabbit hole of like danger. I mean, like, that's kind of like, it could be anything, right? But why portfolio? I mean, I don't know. But it was, anyways, it was like, delete this app right away. Like, what the fuck did I just do? Why did I do this? What did I share? And people do that all the time for novelty, but also with like real apps. But you download these things all the time, parking apps, things, and you're constantly adding to the attackable surface.
Yeah, it's 100%. And you'll do an app for a theme park.
Yeah.
And you have on GPS location for it and stuff, but then you leave it not coming to the right, and it's still there, still on, still beginning. It's on always maybe. I mean, that is something that is something that we should teach people to be aware of. And you know what? There's some things that are absolutely fine. You can say, hey, want everything to be sharing all the time. That's absolutely fine. Do so cognizantly. I'll give you an example. In California, I think it's like a quake app is what it's called, a river. But it's like, you want it on always.
Yeah.
So hey, an earthquake is coming, and go, right, duck and cover, do something, right? Don't stand by the windows. Same thing with weather if you're in the areas and zones where you have massive weather changes. So there are, if you're a frequent traveler, when you're using the airline app, you want it to, because, oh, hey, you need
your
to
gate change, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, you want that stuff. But I mean, it doesn't take a long time to actually think about it, to do it. You can do it right at the beginning, right when you're setting it up. But I think we just breeze past that. And then from phone to phone to phone to phone, because we just upload to the cloud, download the new settings to the new phone. Right, we're not going back through it.
What does the post quantum world mean for all this? What does that mean? What does that mean?
It means the intelligence services are going to be very, very, very busy. Right. I mean, the post quantum world is going to be very, very interesting. Mostly for people that have massive data treasure troves, like folks that have the LastPass databases. That is going to be huge because I don't know. Right, let's just say right now that 10% were weak passwords and they're able to get in. What about those other 90? Can they get into half of that? Another 45%? How many of those passwords have been changed since time one? Is it 5 years and a lot has been changed? Is it 10 years and a lot has been changed? What other indications are in there? What, people in the cleared world, they use encrypted password vaults in their personal life. And sometimes they mix and match. And so I think it's going to be really, really interesting to see what people are able to unlock that might have been 10, 20 years in the past. And the cool thing is it might not show us something that isn't now known, but what it will do is show the pattern of reasoning of how did our government get from A to B to C to D, and therefore be able to predict what E might be happening now that you don't know.
Yeah.
So it's almost like the famous mafia cases of pen trap and trace registers, right? It doesn't actually record the conversation. It's just what number called what number at what time for how long.
Yeah. And
you can tell who's communicating. Kind of back to the different attacks that we saw on our nation's carriers in October in October of last year in terms of those different attacks. I mean, that's the type of data that's hugely valuable. People are hanging around together, communicating a lot and all the rest. And I think quantum will allow us to see records, our other agencies and ours, to see records that at one point in time we thought were unattainable, but now are.
Okay, so what does the future look like for this particular industry? I mean, we looked at BlackCloak early on. We were losers for not investing in your company early on. I don't know what we were doing. I don't know. We were moving slow at the time. Now we're like the super agile, nimble, fast investing machine. But our loss is your gain, I guess, because you guys have been growing like crazy.
We got a great relationship.
Yeah, we have a great relationship. We don't have to have like this investor startup relationship.
There you go.
And there's no quid pro quo here. Like we're just sitting here, we're just friends having a conversation about this. But like, what does the future look like for this particular space? I'm just surprised I don't hear about 30 more BlackCloaks all the time, because I mean they're probably out there and I'm just not paying attention to them. And you're up probably against I don't want the words in your mouth, but like you're up against the like Comcast of the world that claim they do like home security. Not in reality, you're not up against them, but like maybe sometimes people think they're some level of protection there. But what does the future look like? Are you up against, who is your competition? You don't have to name them. Like how does it all work?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I mean, the overall, right, the category we created to call digital executive protection, and just to set the stage on that, it has to be something that is comprised of privacy, right? Shrink that attack surface, data broker removal, the real intelligence side of the deep web, dark web, making sure your device leaks less information, all your devices leak less information, removing your home pictures, removing personal information that's online in other areas.
OPSEC stuff.
Yeah, and we have an OSINT OPSEC team that goes out and actually does it. And
What do they do? They come into your house and
well, they don't go to your house, right? But they're doing so digitally, the same as an adversary would do.
Yeah.
And so they're actually able to go ahead and figure out what is it about you that allows somebody to get to you. And then we, through our process, right, it's automated, it's an intelligence engine that we built ourselves internally, we're able to go ahead and remove those different items and address different things. But so there's a big area of privacy. The second area is cybersecurity. So we built a purpose-built application from the ground up that's on your cell phone, tablet, and computer. It's defense, it's offense, it's also a dashboard. We have a deception. I know you know a lot about deception.
Oh, yeah.
So traffic acts, right? Yeah. Well, but we have one of the largest consumer deception networks out there. Every single one of our machines.
So much cool stuff you can do with AI with deception now too. Like
There's a lot of fun stuff you can do. There's a lot of fun stuff, right? A lot of fun stuff you can do there. And then what we built is a purpose-built SIM SOAR on the inside of BlackCloak. Not using third-party tools, right? Keeps everyone's data private, but also more so, it allows us to self-actuate in an automated fashion, which allows us to grow and scale.
Can you build do you build? Could you build? I mean, you could build. Do you build? Do you guys have? Oh, you don't have to tell me the state of the art because you don't want to give up too much. But like, you could build a deception environment now that's tailored towards whoever's looking at it, and just basically be like, okay, we know they're going to want to see this, so we're going to in real time change the environment to look like this to make it look even more.
That would be a great idea.
Yeah.
Okay, that'd be a great idea. Yeah. Really great idea.
Yeah.
There's a lot that you can do there. But so you have that privacy area, you have the cybersecurity area. The third area you have is that home network defense. So we penetration test our clients' homes. They have like 3 to 5 homes on average every 7 days.
I am nowhere near your client level yet.
You will be. So
3 to 5 homes?
Yeah, they get a lot of homes.
Oh man.
We have, I think it's like 11 homes.
It's like usually like what's the like Vale, Paris, Aspen, New York.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Miami.
Miami.
We have a lot there. We have a few yachts, right, that are also included. We don't do planes. If you get that wrong, they drop out of the sky. So we just do yachts.
Okay.
We have
do that.
Yeah.
Do you have an opinion? Have you tracked this breaking news? How the hell did 2 Navy planes fall out of the sky in the South China Sea yesterday? Did you see that?
I didn't see that.
Okay. All right. Anyways,
No.
like Trump is in Asia right now at a conference, right? And a UH-60 and an F-18 within 30 minutes of each other crash into the South China Sea. And that doesn't happen within 30 minutes of each other off the same aircraft carrier. Like there's a whole other story there. It's probably happening while we're filming this episode, right?
I was about to say, I think it caught back up on that, but I mean, our first guesses would be something on the EW spectrum.
Yes. I woke up and saw that, and I didn't get a chance to like what sort of electronic beam was shot at these things and dropped. Yeah. Luckily, everybody was rescued and is back on the I forget the name of the aircraft carrier that it was there, but. Holy shit.
Well, what people don't realize is that, like, the EW spectrum is this big, and cyber is, like, this super small slice. And we've been doing a lot there. So, privacy, cybersecurity, the home network defense, offense, protection there, and then that concierge. And it's got to be all those things together, as well as, right, identity verification, knowing who you are, to protect against deep fakes and other scams and frauds that are out there in a closed, tight network.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's really what digital executive protection, the category, is about. It also involves, BlackCloak doesn't do, but it also involves physical protection. There's some things we do there. Social media monitoring can be part of that. There are a few other inputs into that, but that's the entire ecosystem. Where's this thing going? I mean, it's unlimited. It's boundless, right? The amount of increasing attacks and fervor out there on the internet. on social media, on different things, right? Just at an all-time high. The amount of accounts people have, the amount of information that's out there about them that they're pushing out themselves, all those digital breadcrumbs, keeps on happening. Artificial intelligence, deepfakes, I mean, the ability to mimic a voice, a face, a video, all the rest, it's all there.
Yeah.
And organized criminal syndicates are using that technology. Nation states are using that technology, and even just in terms of preparing the battle space. It may still be hands-on keyboard for a lot, but just preparing the battle space, they're going from 0 to 90 in in minutes as opposed to days or weeks. And it's really, I mean, you're right. It's really an asymmetric threat.
Yeah.
And it's really going to enable a lot of other people to do some really interesting.
Yeah, because your customers are up against nation states.
Yeah.
I mean, they're up against criminals too. Criminals that work for nation states, criminals that operate on their own, actual nation states,
100%.
that are going up against civilian Americans. And like, there's been no time in history where you had to defend yourself against a nation state.
Well, and that's
individually,
and that's where the marketplace didn't exist and still doesn't really exist in a cohesive fashion. You have a whole bunch of data broker removal companies, which that's cool. When you're talking about someone that has 500 million assets under management, or is a CEO of GE or something, we're just talking massively different scales. You still have private VPNs, whatnot. Great. You still have the credit monitoring type of stuff. I mean, that's when we talk about digital executive protection.
Right.
Those are very small pieces of something, but that larger pie is actually the offense and defense and OSINT and OPSEC and all the rest that goes into actually mustering a solution, a platform, and people around protecting a family.
Can I buy BlackCloak branded Faraday jackets to wear and things like that I could have like a BlackCloak, or it doesn't have to say BlackCloak on it, okay? I have Faraday pockets.
Of course, I do have my Faraday bag with me.
Okay.
Those are some.
Do you issue those to your top clients?
Some people do get Faraday bags, depending on what it is they're doing, where they're going. The bigger issue there is that, from a cyber, once again, back to how do we talk to?
I don't get them because I only have one house, right?
That's right. Yeah,
that's all right.
but in all seriousness, in terms of talking to people about what they need to do and all the rest, even just right now. There's the Wi-Fi, Bluetooth attacks against car keys, and if your car key is within, let's just call it 30 feet of the car that parked outside, if you were to put it inside one of the car key Faraday bags, then somebody can't boost the signal, jump on it, and go ahead and start your car and drive away. But teaching someone a behavior change is very, very, very difficult, and that's where you get resistance. What we want as part of BlackCloak, our whole motto is we protect your digital life, right? Protect your digital life. And so in that, what we want to do is have the chance and opportunity afforded to us to be able to do that, as opposed to a series of items that are friction filled. And putting a phone in a bag or turning it off and missing a call or missing a text could result in someone saying, I don't want that.
Yeah.
So
it's very disruption to business operations. It's there's a trade-off there.
Think about it this way. Think about it as the non-cyber folks. So, you go into the doctor and the doctor says, hey, you got to lose 10, 15 pounds. And says, what I want you to do is have no whiskey, have no Oreos, no sugary sweets, eat chicken and fish every single day only, and walk 5 miles a day, run 5 miles a day. You're like, it might last, 2 days, 3 days?
Yeah.
You're just not going to be able to do it. As opposed to someone that says, hey, for right now, Oreos once a month, cake once a month type of thing, whiskey, hey, can you do 3 days a week? Yeah. 3 days a week. Hey, can you walk around the block, once a day, and it's a mile or 2 miles, but, nice and easy, and do it 3 times a week. And you say, yeah, I can do that, doc. And you see progress, and then you ramp it up a little more, you see more progress. All we're trying to do is bring people on the cybersecurity journey from this 0 to 5% where people are into a 20%, into a 30%, into a 40, 50, 80, 90%. So they see and understand the value, but also the friction level doesn't rise so high that they repel from it and don't want to be involved in the process. That's how we win. We win because of our concierge team and purpose-built technology blended together, but it has to be done in a way that makes sense and is literally, concierge and bespoke per each family. The wife who's the CEO of, Intel and the husband who maybe he's not working, they're going to have very different levels of understanding of what cybersecurity is, what privacy is, education and training, dual factor, and all the rest. We got to meet people where they are and then bring them along with us on that journey.
What's the biggest challenge you've had to date, kind of building your company from the ground up to where you are now?
I think probably two things. Number one, making sure that as the company goes through different growth cycles, maintaining with real rigor the culture. That's something that's very, very important to me. I figured out what I wanted, then the initial 3-5 person team figured out what we wanted, then the next 10, next 20, and we've kind of solidified things there. We'll minor tweak changes here and there, but essentially we don't want to have too much variance from that. Yeah. We want every single group and growth stage from 20 to 40, from 40 to 80, from 80 to 120, 120 to 150. We want everyone to identify with it, to buy into it, to want to be part of it. And so I think that maintaining that culture, like really, really prescriptively, we're a 100% remote work company, and so it has to be done with purpose. I think that is a challenge or challenging. Yeah. But if you dedicate the right people, time, and resources to it, right, you can do it. The other thing is, right, just great, amazing people. I've always said that we hire for, and this has been forever, from way back before you even knew me, is you hire for people for tech, whatever it is you see you're good at. If you're a lawyer, be a great lawyer. Finance person, be great at finance. Whatever you see you're good at, be good at it. So that tech. Second, for the culture, in one very, very specific aspect of the culture, yes, aligning to the company, but that kind of get up and go, fire in the belly, get shit done aspect of things, right? Very, very, very important. And in making sure that we have that, and then also that element of humbleness, not timidness, but empathy, respect, appreciation for other people that are different from you, wanting to be engaged with other individuals, wanting to understand different people, really be, quite honestly, humble. And that, so that first part was kind of maintaining the culture. Second part is making sure that we hire really, really great, amazing people. So we do hire slowly. And very, very methodically. And I think that, so far that's proven out to be very, very good for us. But sometimes it's a challenge, and sometimes we have to pass on good people.
What's the biggest misconception of executive protection meets cybersecurity? Like, what is the what kind of, like, when people think about this, they think, oh, is there like Navy SEALs for cybersecurity? But
that's kind of what we are.
Okay, all right. Well, is that accurate or inaccurate?
We actually, so it's funny. Our team.
I was on the guy. Is it Delta or is it Navy SEAL?
Well, you could go. You
could go either way.
Go either way. It's actually, so our actual frontline cyber warriors. So everyone has bomber jackets, old fighter plane jackets. They all have patches for the different certifications they have, different accomplishments they have. We actually have a culture that kind of rewards those things, right? We want people to go further. We want to bring people throughout their career, throughout their journey. But I mean, biggest misconception. I mean, I think I would say that, initially, right, digital executive protection maybe got a little more lumped into executive protection on the physical side. And it's one important aspect of it, but it's not what we do, right? We always say our Navy SEALs is cybersecurity. We're keenly focused in on that area because it is such a big, massive attack surface, and we want to do that one thing and do it really, really well. We'll partner with others on different assignments, different missions, and all the rest, but you want to do that.
Do you partner with physical security teams as well? Like, for
there are some, yeah, absolutely. And that's where we find, our biggest partners, bar none, are going to be chief information security officers, as well as chief security officers, and quote unquote, right, their teams. It might be their director of threat intelligence or director of the SOC or the executive protection lead for the CSO into the executive team, all the rest. But we partner with them a lot, and we do partner with others that are external. We're very, very careful on who we partner with. We were very careful prior to the United Healthcare incident. Since then, we've had to be even more careful. All of a sudden, everybody was a executive protection or close in protection fellow, so to speak, in the next months. But there's a massive hiring upswell there. And so we are always very, very careful with who we partner with. And a lot of them come from kind of like your background and my background in terms of that area of things. We draw from people that we know or people who know them.
Yeah.
And so they're never too far away from us.
What do you say, CISO or CISO?
I'm just going to CISO.
You're a CISO guy?
I'm a CISO guy.
All right. It's funny. Like I was talking to somebody that was saying
CISO and a CSO.
somebody was saying it like a completely different way, and they were I can't even replicate what they were saying. And they were a CISO/CISO, and I was like, oh, that's a new way of saying it. No clue. Anyways, Chris, it's been great having you on the podcast. This was awesome. Always been super interested in this particular mission area. Let's call it that. Massively underserved. You guys were early movers in the space, so it's super interesting talk. But there's a lot we didn't talk about today. We'll have to talk about it some other time.
Absolutely.
Thanks for joining us. Really appreciate it.
Hey, thank you. I appreciate it.
Awesome.